Question 1. Just a role and responsibilities. An adjuster in Maryland is handling a complex liability claim involving multiple parties. During the investigation, the adjuster discovers confidential information that could impact the settlement. According to Maryland adjuster conduct laws, what should the adjuster do in this situation? A. Disclose the information to all parties involved, as full transparency is required in liability claims. B. Use the information strategically to negotiate a low settlement as it benefits the insurer. C. Keep the information confidential unless required by law or court order to disclose it. D. Share the information with the insured's attorney only, ensuring the client's right to representation. Answer: C. Keep the information confidential unless required by law or court order to disclose it. Explanation: under Maryland adjuster conduct laws, adjusters are obligated to maintain confidentiality of information obtained during the claims process except when disclosure is mandated by law or a court order. This ethical requirement helps ensure that sensitive information is protected, preventing misuse and safeguarding the rights of all involved parties. Using confidential information for leverage in negotiations, option B, or disclosing it to unauthorized parties, option A, would violate this code of ethics, potentially leading to disciplinary actions. Question 2. Property insurance. Property loss valuation. Mr. Blake's property was damaged in a fire and he files a claim with his insurer. The insurer determines the replacement cost of the property to be $200,000, but due to depreciation, the actual cash value is assessed at $150,000. If Mr. Blake's policy covers actual cash value (SCV), how much will the insurer pay out for the loss? A. $200,000, the full replacement cost of the property. B. $150,000, the actual cash value reflecting depreciation. C. $175,000 as a compromise between SCV and replacement cost. D. The amount is determined after factoring in deductibles and policy limits. Answer: B. $150,000, the actual cash value reflecting depreciation. Explanation: in a property insurance policy with ACV coverage, the payout is based on the depreciated value of the property at the time of loss, not the full replacement cost. Therefore, Mr. Blake would receive $150,000, which reflects the actual cash value after depreciation. Replacement cost, option A, only applies if the policy explicitly includes replacement cost coverage, which would allow him to rebuild or replace the property at current market value without depreciation. The correct calculation ensures compliance with the valuation method specified in his policy. Question 3. Scenario-based. Catastrophe and disaster adjusting during a severe hurricane in Maryland, MS. Carter's home suffers substantial damage, and she files a claim with her insurer, MS. Carter's policy includes additional living expenses (AL) coverage, which she wants to use for temporary housing while repairs are being completed. However, her insurer imposes a limit on the ALE duration and the amount reimbursed. Under Maryland disaster protocols and typical ALE provisions, what is the maximum support MS? Carter should reasonably expect for her temporary housing a limited ALE coverage until her property is fully restored. BALE coverage up to her policy's specified limit with a reasonable time frame for repairs. C. ALE reimbursement based solely on average local rental costs regardless of the limit. D. ALE capped at 50% of her dwelling coverage irrespective of the repair duration. Answer: B. ALE coverage up to her policy's specified limit with a reasonable time frame for repairs. Explanation: additional living expenses (AL) coverage helps policyholders pay for temporary housing and related expenses when a covered loss makes their home uninhabitable. Typically, ALE coverage is capped at a certain limit specified in the policy and is limited to a reasonable period based on expected repair times. Option A, unlimited coverage, is not standard as ALE coverage generally has both monetary and duration limits. Similarly, C and D do not align with standard ALE terms as ALE limits are determined by policy terms, not solely local rental averages or arbitrary caps like 50% of dwelling coverage. Question 4. Liability insurance. Defenses against liability claims. In Maryland, a defendant in a liability case argues that the plaintiff knowingly engaged in an inherently risky activity and therefore assumed responsibility for any potential injuries. Which legal doctrine is the defendant most likely using as the defense? A. Comparative negligence. B. Assumption of risk. C. Contributory negligence. D. Last clear chance doctrine. Answer: B. Assumption of risk. Explanation: the assumption of risk doctrine applies when a plaintiff voluntarily engages in a risky activity, acknowledging and accepting the potential for injury. Maryland recognizes this doctrine as a complete defense, meaning the plaintiff cannot recover damages if they knowingly accepted the risk. Comparative negligence, option A, applies in states that allow proportional fault sharing, but Maryland adheres to contributory negligence, option C, which bars recovery if the plaintiff has any fault. The last clear chance doctrine, option D, allows a negligent plaintiff to recover if the defendant had the last opportunity to avoid the injury, but it does not apply in this scenario. Question 5. Claims investigation and evaluation. Fraud detection and prevention. While investigating a fire claim, the adjuster notices several red flags, including recent high-value property purchases and a sudden increase in the insured's policy limits just prior to the fire. Which of the following actions is the adjuster most likely obligated to take under Maryland law? A. Complete the investigation without questioning the circumstances, as it is the insurer's responsibility to assess fraud. B. Refer the claim to the insurer's special investigative unit. C. Or report the suspicion of fraud to authorities. C. Deny the claim immediately due to the red flags indicating potential fraud. D. Ignore the red flags unless the insured has a history of fraudulent claims. Answer: B. Refer the claim to the insurer's special investigative unit. C. Or report the suspicion of fraud to authorities. Explanation: under Maryland insurance regulations, adjusters are required to remain vigilant for fraud indicators. When red flags appear, adjusters must refer the case to their company's special investigative unit, C, or report suspected fraud to the appropriate authorities. Denying the claim without further investigation, option C, would be premature and potentially a violation of fair claims practices. Ignoring red flags, options A and D, contradicts Maryland's mandate for diligent claims investigation. Question 6. Scenario-based. Maryland-specific laws and regulations. Mr. Leonard's vehicle is damaged in an accident with an uninsured driver. He files a claim under his uninsured motorist coverage. According to Maryland's requirements for uninsured motorist coverage, what should Mr. Leonard expect from his policy? A. Coverage for both his vehicle repairs and any personal injuries up to the policy limits. B. A fixed amount to cover vehicle repairs, regardless of actual repair costs. C. Only personal injury coverage, as uninsured motorist coverage does not include property damage in Maryland. D. Reimbursement for vehicle repairs only, with no coverage for personal injury. Answer: A. Coverage for both his vehicle repairs and any personal injuries up to the policy limits. Explanation: in Maryland, an insured motorist coverage includes protection for both property damage and bodily injury if an insured is hit by an uninsured driver. This protection applies up to the policy limits, ensuring the insured can recover damages related to both physical injury and vehicle damage. Maryland law mandates this combined coverage, so options B, C, and D are incorrect, as they fail to reflect the full extent of coverage provided by Maryland insurance regulations. Question 7. Property insurance. Additional coverages and endorsements. A policyholder wants additional protection for their high-value jewelry collection, which exceeds the special limits provided in their standard homeowners policy. Which of the following endorsements is most appropriate for this type of coverage? A. Inflation guard endorsement. B. Scheduled personal property endorsement. C. Ordinance or law coverage. D. Debris removal endorsement. Answer: B. Scheduled personal property endorsement. Explanation: a scheduled personal property endorsement allows policyholders to insure specific high-value items like jewelry beyond the standard coverage limits of a homeowner's policy. This endorsement provides agreed-upon value protection, ensuring the collection's full value is covered. The other options are unrelated to increasing specific item coverage. The Inflation Guard endorsement, option A, adjusts for inflation, ordinance or law coverage. Option C applies to repairs required by updated building codes, and debris removal, option D, covers the cost of debris clearance after a covered loss. Question 8. Workers' compensation and employers' liability. In Maryland, what is the primary requirement for an injury to be compensable under workers' compensation insurance? A. The injury must have occurred outside the workplace. B. The injury must be solely the employer's fault. C. The injury must arise out of and in the course of employment. D. The injury must be pre-existing to qualify for coverage. Answer: C. The injury must arise out of and in the course of employment. Explanation: for an injury to qualify for workers' compensation in Maryland, it must arise out of and occur during the course of employment. This requirement ensures that only work-related injuries are covered. Options A, B, and D are incorrect. The injury need not occur outside the workplace. A, employer fault is not required. B, and pre-existing conditions. D, are not grounds for initial coverage eligibility. Maryland's workers' compensation laws protect employees injured while performing job-related duties. Question 9. Casualty insurance. Personal auto policies. Under Maryland personal auto policy, which of the following would typically be covered under comprehensive coverage? A, collision with another vehicle. B, damage from a hailstorm. C, personal injury due to a car accident. D, damage to a parked vehicle by a hit-and-run driver. Answer: B, damage from a hailstorm. Explanation: comprehensive coverage includes damages from non-collision events such as theft, fire, and natural events like hailstorms. Collision coverage, option A, applies specifically to crashes, while personal injury, option C, is typically covered under medical payments or PIP. Personal injury protection, damage by a hit-and-run driver, option D, would fall under uninsured motorist or collision coverage, not comprehensive. Comprehensive protection is designed to cover losses caused by unforeseen external events beyond accidents with other vehicles. Question 10. Advanced topics in claims adjusting. Emerging risks in technology in adjusting. An insurance adjuster is investigating a cyber liability claim due to data breach in a Maryland company. Which of the following steps would most effectively support the adjuster's investigation and alignment with emerging risk protocols? A, reviewing physical property damage associated with the breach. B, collaborating with cybersecurity experts to assess the extent of data compromised. C, ignoring technology-related evidence as it is beyond traditional claims adjusting. D, filing the claim as a standard liability loss without further investigation. Answer: B, collaborating with cybersecurity experts to assess the extent of data compromised. Explanation: cyber liability claims require specialized knowledge of data breaches and digital security. Just as handling such claims should work with cybersecurity experts to determine the scope of compromised data and potential liabilities, this collaboration aligns with best practices for handling technology-related claims. Options A and C misunderstand the nature of cyber risk, as physical property damage is usually relevant and technology evidence is crucial in cyber claims. Filing as a standard liability loss, option D, would miss the specifics of cyber liability, which requires a targeted approach. Question 11. Property insurance. Additional living expenses. A Maryland homeowner's property was significantly damaged due to a fire, rendering it uninhabitable. Under their homeowner's insurance policy, which expense is typically covered under additional living expenses, A, repairs to their personal vehicle damaged in the fire. B, the cost of staying in a hotel while the home is being repaired. C, the replacement of furniture lost in the fire. D, increased utilities cost in their temporary residence. Answer: B, the cost of staying in a hotel while the home is being repaired. Explanation: additional living expenses. Ill coverage helps pay for extra costs associated with living elsewhere when a home becomes uninhabitable due to covered peril. This includes hotel costs but excludes items like vehicle repairs. Option A, replacement of personal property. Option C, and utility bills. Option D, unless specified. Question 12. Workers' compensation. Employer obligations. Under Maryland workers' compensation law, which of the following statements accurately describes an employer's obligation to provide workers' compensation insurance? A, all employers, regardless of size, must carry workers' compensation insurance. B, only employers in specific high-risk industries must carry workers' compensation insurance. C, employers with at least one employee are generally required to provide workers' compensation coverage. D, employers can opt out of workers' compensation if they provide equivalent health benefits. Answer: C, employers with at least one employee are generally required to provide workers' compensation coverage. Explanation: Maryland law generally mandates that employers carry workers' compensation insurance if they have one or more employees. Options A and B are incorrect because requirements are not based solely on industry or size. Employers cannot opt out simply by offering health benefits. Option D. Question 13. Liability insurance. Bodily injury coverage. A Maryland driver with a personal auto policy is involved in an accident that injures another driver. Which part of the personal auto policy will cover the injured driver's medical expenses? A, property damage liability. B, bodily injury liability. C, medical payments coverage. D, uninsured motorist coverage. Answer B. Bodily injury liability. Explanation. Bodily injury liability pays for injuries to others when the insured is at fault in an accident. Property damage liability, option A, covers damage to another's property. Medical payments, option C, covers the policyholders and their passengers' medical costs. And uninsured motorist coverage, option D, protects against damages caused by uninsured drivers. Question 14, Maryland insurance law. Fraud reporting requirements. If an insurance adjuster in Maryland suspects fraud in a claim, what is their legal obligation regarding reporting? A. They must notify the claimant directly. B. They are required to document it internally but not report it. C. They must report the suspected fraud to the Maryland Insurance Administration. MIA. D. They should immediately deny the claim without further investigation. Answer C. They must report the suspected fraud to the Maryland Insurance Administration. MIA. Explanation. Maryland law requires that suspected insurance fraud be reported to the MIA. The adjuster does not have authority to deny the claim without further investigation, option D, and must follow official reporting channels. Question 15. Casualty insurance. Umbrella policies. A Maryland homeowner has an umbrella liability policy. Which of the following is a primary purpose of an umbrella policy? A. To cover physical damages to their home and car. B. To provide additional liability coverage above primary policies. C. To cover wear and tear on the insured's property. D. To pay for routine maintenance of property. Answer B. To provide additional liability coverage above primary policies. Explanation. An umbrella policy provides extra liability coverage that goes beyond the limits of underlying policies, e.g. home or auto. It does not cover physical damages, wear and tear, or maintenance costs. Question 16. Claims settlement. Replacement cost versus actual cash value. A Maryland homeowner's roof was damaged in a windstorm. If their homeowner's policy provides for replacement cost, what will they likely receive as compensation? A. The amount equal to the cost of the original roof minus depreciation. B. The cost to replace the roof with a similar one without considering depreciation. C. The amount it costs to fully replace the roof with a new upgraded version. D. A fixed amount set by the insurance company. Answer B. The cost to replace the roof with a similar one without considering depreciation. Explanation. Replacement cost policies pay for repairs or replacement without deducting depreciation, allowing the insured to restore the property to its previous state. Actual cash value ACV policies, however, deduct depreciation. Option A. Question 17. Auto insurance. Personal injury protection (PIP) in Maryland. Personal injury protection (PIP) coverage under an auto insurance policy provides compensation for which of the following? A. Only medical expenses for the insured driver. B. Medical expenses and lost wages for the insured and passengers. C. Property damage to the insured's vehicle. D. Only the medical expenses of the other party in an accident. Answer B. Medical expenses and lost wages for the insured and passengers. Explanation. Maryland PIP coverage provides for medical expenses and lost wages for the insured and any passengers, regardless of who is at fault. Property damage, option C, and expenses for the other party, option D, are not covered by PIP. Question 18. Maryland specific law. Contributory negligence. Maryland follows the contributory negligence rule. How does this impact liability claims? A. A plaintiff can recover damages if they are less than 50% at fault. B. A plaintiff is barred from recovering damages if they are found even slightly at fault. C. A plaintiff can recover damages if they are less than 51% at fault. D. A plaintiff can only recover damages for economic losses if they are partially at fault. Answer B. A plaintiff is barred from recovering damages if they are found even slightly at fault. Explanation. Maryland's contributory negligence rule is strict. If a plaintiff is even 1% at fault, they cannot recover damages. This is different from comparative negligence options A and C, where partial fault might still allow for recovery. Question 19. Commercial property insurance. Business interruption coverage. A Maryland business owner's property suffered fire damage, forcing the business to close temporarily. Which type of coverage would compensate for lost income during the closure? A. Extra expense coverage. B. Business interruption coverage. C. General liability coverage. D. Ordinance or law coverage. Answer B. Business interruption coverage. Explanation. Business interruption coverage helps a business recover lost income resulting from a covered event that disrupts operations. Extra expense coverage, option A, covers additional expenses, not income replacement, while general liability, option C, an ordinance or law coverage, option D, do not address income loss. Question 20. Homeowners insurance, dwelling versus personal property coverage. In Maryland, under a standard HO3 homeowners insurance policy, which of the following would be covered under personal property coverage rather than dwelling coverage? A. Damage to a built-in kitchen cabinet. B. Damage to a detached garage. C. Loss of clothing due to a house fire. D. Structural repairs to the home's foundation. Answer C. Loss of clothing due to a house fire. Explanation. Personal property coverage under an HO3 policy includes personal belongings like clothing, furniture, and electronics. Dwelling coverage applies to the structure of the home. G. Foundation, built-ins. The detached garage, option B, would be covered under other structures in most policies. Question 21. Advanced adjusting topics. Subrogation. An insurance company in Maryland pays for damages to its insured after an accident involving an at-fault third party. What is the purpose of subrogation in this context? A. To prevent the insured from filing future claims. B. To allow the insurer to seek reimbursement from the at-fault party. C. To waive all of the insured's rights against third parties. D. To avoid claims payments exceeding policy limits. Answer B. To allow the insurer to seek reimbursement from the at-fault party. Explanation. Subrogation allows an insurer that paid a claim to seek reimbursement from the responsible third party. It does not prevent future claims, option A, or waive rights entirely, option C, and it is unrelated to policy limits, option D. Question 22. Maryland homeowners insurance. Debris removal coverage. In Maryland, a storm causes a large tree to fall in a homeowner's yard. If the tree did not damage the house but blocks the driveway, which policy feature typically covers the cost of removing the tree? A. Dwelling coverage. B. Personal property coverage. C. Debris removal coverage. D. Loss of use coverage. Answer C. Debris removal coverage. Explanation. Debris removal coverage generally covers the cost of removing trees that block driveways or access points, even if the tree did not damage the home. Dwelling and personal property coverage typically apply to structural or contents damage, not debris removal. Question 23. Maryland insurance regulations. Just the license requirements. Which of the following is a requirement for obtaining a Maryland public adjuster license? A. Being a resident of Maryland for at least 5 years. B. Completion of a 60-hour pre-licensing course. C. Passing the Maryland adjuster license exam. D. Holding a law degree. Answer C. Passing the Maryland adjuster license exam. Explanation. To become a licensed public adjuster in Maryland, an applicant must pass the state adjuster exam. There is no requirement for a law degree, extensive residency, or a specific pre-licensing course, although courses can be helpful. Question 24. Commercial auto insurance. Comprehensive coverage under commercial auto insurance policy in Maryland. Which of the following incidents would likely be covered under comprehensive coverage? A. A collision with another vehicle. B. Theft of the vehicle. C. Damage caused while loading cargo. D. Injury to a pedestrian hit by the vehicle. Answer B. Theft of the vehicle. Explanation. Comprehensive coverage in a commercial auto policy typically covers non-collision related incidents such as theft, vandalism, or natural disasters. Collision coverage would address damages from crashes, option A, and liability coverage would address bodily injuries to others, option D. Question 25. Liability insurance. Personal liability under a homeowner's policy in Maryland. If a homeowner's dog bites a visitor on their property, which part of the homeowner's policy would typically cover the visitor's medical expenses? A. Medical payments to others. B. Dwelling coverage. C. Loss of use. D. Personal property coverage. Answer A. Medical payments to others. Explanation. The medical payments to others section covers medical expenses incurred due to injuries sustained by visitors on the insured's property regardless of fault. Personal liability coverage could also apply if the insured is found liable for the injury. Question 26. Maryland-specific law. Fair claims settlement practices. Which of the following practices would violate Maryland's Fair Claims Settlement Practices Act? A. Delaying investigation of a claim without justifiable cause. B. Requiring proof of loss for a claim. C. Denying a claim within 10 days of its filing. D. Recommending the claimant hire a lawyer. Answer: A. Delaying investigation of a claim without justifiable cause. Explanation: Maryland's Fair Claims Settlement Practices Act prohibits insurers from unfairly delaying the investigation of claims. Proof of loss is standard practice and timely claim denials are allowed if valid, recommending a lawyer. Option D does not necessarily violate the Act. Question 27. Auto insurance. Uninsured motorist coverage. A Maryland driver is injured in an accident caused by an uninsured motorist. Which part of their auto insurance policy would cover their medical expenses? A. Collision coverage. B. Personal injury protection. PEP. C. Uninsured motorist coverage. D. Comprehensive coverage. Answer: C. Uninsured motorist coverage. Explanation: uninsured motorist coverage helps cover medical expenses, lost wages, and other damages when an insured driver is injured by an uninsured or hit-and-run driver. Personal injury protection (PIP) also applies, but only up to specified limits. Question 20. Homeowners insurance. Ordinance or law coverage. A Maryland homeowner's property is partially damaged in a fire. When the homeowner rebuilds, they must meet new local building codes that require more expensive roofing material. What part of the homeowner's policy could help cover this extra expense? A. Dwelling coverage. B. Ordinance or law coverage. C. Personal property coverage. D. Liability coverage. Answer: B. Ordinance or law coverage. Explanation: ordinance or law coverage pays for the extra cost of rebuilding to meet updated building codes. After a covered loss, it covers expenses above the standard dwelling coverage. Question 29. Commercial general liability. Completed operations coverage. Which of the following would be covered under completed operations in a Maryland commercial general liability (CGL) policy? A. An injury to a worker on the job site. B. Damage to the insured's own equipment. C. Damage caused by work completed after the contractor leaves the job site. D. Theft of materials from the site before job completion. Answer: C. Damage caused by work completed after the contractor leaves the job site. Explanation: completed operations coverage provides protection for damages or injuries caused by work completed by the contractor after leaving the site. It does not cover injuries on the job site or equipment damage. Question 30. Commercial property insurance. Coinsurance clause. A Maryland business has a commercial property policy with a 90% coinsurance clause. The building is valued at $1 million, but the business only insures it for $700,000. If the building suffers a partial loss of $100,000, how much will the insurer pay? A. $70,000. B. $77,778. C. $90,000. D. $100,000. Answer: B. $77,778. Explanation: with 90% coinsurance, the business should have insured the building for at least $900,000. Since it insured it for only $700,000, a coinsurance penalty applies. The formula is amount of insurance amount required x loss amount. So $700,000 $900,000 x $100,000 equals $77,778.